but I'm sure. Okay, got it. I know. I'm sure we know the same people, and I think you worked with my brother once actually. As well. He's like a jazzy saxophone guy. I think he worked on Young Adam, this movie, Young Adam.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So he was doing the saxophone. Raymond, I think it's called.
Raymond.
McDonald.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
He said he's recorded with you before, yeah?
Yeah, we've done a few things together, yeah. Played together, a few gigs and recorded together. Yeah.
That's the folk and the jazz clash.
I was just looking at some posts on Instagram from him today. He's made a record with Richard Youngs and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, really? Richard Youngs is interested in like conceptual artists, right? Not really?
Mostly a musician. But
His spoken word.
highly conceptual, I think.
It's quite, pardon?
Often his music is quite highly conceptual, I would say.
Yeah.
But also very heartfelt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you were born in Germany, is that right? Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, I was born in Germany because my mother's German. My father was Scottish. He died in 2001.
Okay, sorry about
that. It's all right. It was a long time ago. But
yeah,
he was quite young. He was only 54 when he died.
Wow.
But yeah, so they were living in Germany at the time, running a booking agency, booking a lot of like Scottish and Irish folk bands and stuff in Germany at the time, and English. So that's why I was born there, and my two sisters, and then we moved back to Scotland in about 1980, I think. 79 or 80.
So you had primary school in Germany, and then you done secondary school here, yeah?
No, I was born in 77, so all my schooling was in Scotland.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So what school did you go to?
I grew up eventually we settled in the town of Callander.
Okay.
So I went to Callander Primary School and then went to a local school called McLaren High School.
Right, okay, cool.
Callander.
But you ended up in Glasgow?
Yeah, I moved when I was 18, like
18.
95.
Okay, 95. I'm a bit older than you, so my cultural reference points are slightly different. But I'd like to know yours. I'll tell you mine quickly. It's like Adamant, right. The Smiths. No, it was Adamant, then Aztec Camera, then the Smiths, and then Happy Mondays, and then everything went bananas after that. Just so, but I'm sure if you've got this sort of musical parents, then you've got a completely not such a mainstream kind of cultural references coming in. I mean, did you like any mainstream music when you were growing up?
Well, I mean, it's funny because when we moved back to Scotland, my parents were no longer involved in the music scene. And I mean, my father would still play in the house on weekends. He'd play guitar, accordion, banjo. So there was that kind of, folk music around. But then as a kid, I would like watch Top of the Pops every weekend, listen to Radio 1, and I remember Adamant from when I was very young, like probably saw him on Top of the Pops in the very early 80s, but yeah, that's one of the earliest pop music I can remember is like Culture Club or stuff like that.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I like Anthony and the Johnsons now, and it's quite similar. He always says that Boy George was a big influence on him. I really like Anthony. I think he's not even. I think he's changed his name to something else now.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's so. So when did you start gigging then? Were you remember your first gig, or were you playing guitar? And
my first, what I would think of as my first kind of proper gig. I mean, I did gigs before in like Stirling and stuff, just in like high school bands. But I think my first sort of proper gig was in Glasgow in December '95. Solo in the 13th Note.
Right, 13th Note, right? Yeah.
Upstairs in the 13th Note, yeah.
Okay, upstairs.
I used to play Street.
Yeah. I used to love that place. Like when it first started, I would play downstairs. I was into techno music, But I was also to like I was in a band called Remember Fun with my brother as well, like indie pop twee band.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a good venue.
Yeah, I played there often, like in the first, 3 or 4 years of being in Glasgow, and then it moved to King Street. Um,
That's right, yeah.
but yeah, the first gig, it was just me playing solo in like upstairs in the 13th Note just before Christmas, and it came about because I sort of gave some demo tapes to some venues. Obviously, it was all tapes then, with digital
Uh-huh.
stuff, and it was Alex Huntley, as he was
Yeah,
known,
yeah. The
Transferner.
Blisters.
Yeah,
I put him
Blisters.
on in a band. When he was in the Blisters, I used to put gigs on as well.
Right.
Um, so it was the Blisters, yeah.
Yeah. And where did you
And
put on gigs?
and Madame Gillespie's. Remember this
Oh yeah,
venue?
yeah. Right,
Underneath
yeah.
underneath the motorway bridge. So I've done a
On
few gigs in
on
there.
the south side, yeah, just south of the river.
Yeah, it was near the Sound House, like,
Yeah.
and it was a strange venue. We put like long leg on and people like that, and
I think I went to at least one long leg gig there, or maybe Yummy Fur and long
yeah,
leg
yeah.
together
Wow.
in about 96.
It was kind of strange because like it was like optimal before optimal. I like to think of it like that. Did you ever go to optimal? No.
No, I was never really a big like clubber,
Yeah, 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 yeah. You managed to avoid that. You're lucky. Just you saved your brain cells. So what about the first gig that you attended? Can you remember the first gig that had an effect on you?
The first gig that I attended as like an audience member.
Yeah.
Uh, I remember going to see Paul Simon with
Wow.
my parents when I was like 12 or something.
Simon. Was that in Glasgow?
Yeah, it was in the SEC.
Ah, right. Like 10,000 people probably.
Yeah, something like that. It was pretty busy, but it's strange because then a few years ago, the last time Paul Simon played, a friend of mine, an old friend of mine, had a spare ticket
Uh-huh.
because his girlfriend couldn't go, so he offered it to me. So I've seen Paul Simon twice in Glasgow. It was great concerts. I mean, I don't really listen to his music,
Mm.
or anything, uh, but yeah, he's a great songwriter. And, yeah, I enjoyed the concerts.
Yeah, I
Uh,
love Simon Garfunkel.
yeah, but then like this kind of smaller. When I started going to concerts on my own when I was like a bit older, but
Uh-huh.
still illegal because I was only 16 or 17.
Yeah.
Be like I saw people like Pavement and
Ah,
Sebulba.
cool.
I was kind of into that kind of American scene, that American kind
I
of indie
supported
scene.
him once when I was in a band called Future Pilot.
Oh yeah,
This show. So we supported
really?
Pavement at this great venue in London.
Oh yeah,
Steve Malkmus, yeah, but I think they got back together. But
yeah,
they've got the odd great song, man. Some good songwriter, right?
yeah. I was really into them a certain period. I didn't really follow the later albums or like his solo or any of their solo projects, but yeah, at that point in my life, that was a big yeah. Yeah.
And were you studying at the time? Did you go to uni or no art school or anything?
Ostensibly, that's why I moved to Glasgow to study at Glasgow University.
All right.
But I was so engaged with the sort of music, playing music and writing songs and stuff that I didn't really concentrate on my studies. I
Mm.
regret it now, but I kind of wasted my time there and I dropped out. But then I dropped out, and then after like a year or two on the dole, I was like, I'm going to try and go back to being a student before I get too old. So I called up Strathclyde University in the clearing week and said, "Can I come and study there?" And I sort of like must have made a convincing case. So they let me into Strathclyde, and I eventually graduated from there with an English literature degree,
All
and
right.
I kind of
Wow.
focused on like English and Scottish literature.
Oh, wow.
And it was kind of derailed a bit by my father dying. It was like he died when I was in my second or third year, so it took me like a year longer to finish the course, but I did graduate eventually.
Right, well done. So you got your English degree? BA, is it? BA?
Yeah, BA.
Bachelor, right? Okay.
I mean, I can't tell whether it's been any use to me, like, because my career has been quite unconventional, I suppose. But it did kind of allow me to explore aspects of like literary culture that were quite inspiring and influential in my work. Like it kind of coincided with me sort of really digging deep and discovering sort of traditional songs and ballads, and I kind of steered my studies towards like traditional balladry, you know.
What was that link like? What about you studying, I don't know, what aspect of English literature that you were studying, I don't know, led you to explore ballads, and what was that link?
I suppose it was something to do with having been brought up with kind of folk music, and then interested in kind of storytelling, and then that combination of music and storytelling that you find in those ballads, like the ones that, you know, Francis James Child collected together and published, and it was quite an open course, so you could kind of like steer your studies where, you know, channel your interest where you wanted to. You didn't have to, you know, towards the end there weren't like prescribed texts, so I kind of like managed to kind of focus on writing about that kind of area, which is kind of interesting because it's, I mean, those are like largely anonymous ballads and stuff, and then and the, you know, people kind of prize the idea of the author and you know, the authority of the author and so on. But I quite like the fact, or I quite like the idea of things that have been kind of communally created, and I quite like the mystery of sort of anonymity of those songs as well. Yeah.
Is that when it says written by, and then it just says there's not like anyone, it just says like traditional, or
like bad are like traditional arranged, or
it's always passed down, so there's no problem with copyright. you can just play it.
Yeah, pretty much. And you can like
Sam Hall, one of those songs. Sorry, you know that song Sam Hall, the Irish songs. Is that a song that's everyone seems to cover it? Like
I don't think I know it. I feel like I should do. I think I know the name, I know the title, but I can't really hear the
Chimney Sweep or something.
Yeah, maybe. No, yeah, it does ring a bell, but yeah, or more like these like some of the what in Scotland you call the muckle songs, like the big ballads, like big story songs, big narrative songs, often quite tragic, you know, sometimes supernatural. Yeah, sometimes I think I got quite attracted to the idea that some of these songs contain kind of like archetypal stuff, like archetypal imagery and so on, archetypal characters. I kind of like the songs that were less kind of historical, like you couldn't necessarily like tie them down historically or geographically to any one time or place. It was like they kind of happened in this like mythic sort of ballad space and time. You know, that's what first kind of drew me to those kind of songs. You know?
I've been listening to your songs the past couple of days, and I've noticed they're really, really spiritual. And I think that's what you're talking about. They come from like pre-Christian, like almost esoteric, supernatural, like you say, and they're passed down, and they're kind of like religious, but it seems to come from before, somewhere from before religion. But also religion is like, can be spiritual, and some people say all the stories from religion come from mushrooms, or all the different religions have the similar story, you know, like Islam and Christianity and even Judaism. It's all this kind of similar story, and it seems like they're sort of connected, you know, somehow. like there's a magic spirit in them, you know? That's what I've noticed from your songs. I don't know if I'm right or wrong.
I mean, it's definitely been like a strong interest at certain points in my life. I mean, it's kind of always there, but at certain points, it's kind of expressed itself more richly in my work, I think.
Richly.
Maybe, yeah, more obviously as well, like or I've been more kind of emotionally attached to this kind of sense of like spiritual or metaphysical inquiry through the music. Maybe often at kind of times of not crisis, but times of change, or times of transition and confusion, you know, personal kind of transition and confusion, where I've kind of been searching for things, you know.
But you're not religious. You're not like Catholic Christian or.
I don't follow any particular faith, and I wasn't raised in any particular faith.
But you believe in.
I'm interested in faith and religion in general, but I don't follow any, and I wasn't raised in any. But you might be interested to know that my mother is a retired minister in the Church of Scotland.
That makes sense, yeah.
But she kind of converted to, well, she kind of was, you know, rediscovered the faith that she'd been brought up with when she was a bit older, and I was kind of in my teens, and she didn't kind of, you know, attempt to raise my sisters and me in that faith. So we were free to, you know, decide for ourselves. Maybe it's just maybe it's a genetic thing. There's just this predisposition to be, you know, to ponder kind of issues, you know.
Well, music's like a prayer, isn't it? A song is like a prayer, you know. I think you can see it that way, you know.
Yeah, I feel like some of the songs that I've made have like consciously been designed in that way to fulfill that kind of function. Yeah. Not all of them, but
like healing. They're really healing songs.
Yeah, so true. Yeah.
Yeah, I sometimes feel that when I perform live, that I mean the songs that I'm performing might not have been made, you know, with that design in mind, with that idea in mind that they could have this function of like helping someone, you know, but sometimes they do, and I might be surprised at which song it is, you know, like, oh really, that song, that was the one that you found useful or like moving. You know. Interesting. Everyone has their own take on it.
Yeah, it was. I mean, when we were in Bethlehem together, and it was strange to see all these religions in the one place. They had the sort of Church of Scotland were there, and there was a big presence there, and then there was the sort of Greek churches, and all the churches all in this one spot. And what's happening now? It seems, I know you've got a song about the Highland clearances, and I'd like to. I think it seems this has happened in Scotland and Ireland, South Africa, and what's happening? It seems like there's always a constant thing, a crisis going on. I don't know. It's really. I'm kind of having a problem where I'm just looking at it. I can't drag myself away from this sort of what's going on at the moment. You know, I don't know. If you can relate it to the Highland clearances in some way. I'm not an expert on that, but I know that you wrote a song about it. I don't know if you can comment on it or not.
That's the kind of question that I would need to have like a couple of days in advance so I could sort of really think it through, you know. But I mean, situations are, maybe there's some similarities, but they're also very different, you know, different time, different kind of groups involved. And yeah, the Highland clearances. The interesting thing is that obviously the clearances weren't just in the Highlands, but it's always the Highland ones that get the.
But it was ethnic cleansing, wasn't it? Wasn't it? Some people call it a sort of ethnic cleansing. They just wanted the people off the land, right? So they.
I think it's more. I mean, it's more complicated because there was also an extent to which the sort of like Highland lairds themselves were complicit in it, and Scots, Lowland Scots were complicit in it. So it's not like a. I think some people think of it as a simple case of like the English, persecuting the Highland Scots, but it's not so simple as that, But maybe the stuff that happened, maybe as a result of what happened after Culloden and stuff, and then the suppression of Highland culture. Yeah,
The language.
I don't know. I mean, I think some people were more bloodthirsty and could probably be described as being keen on the idea of ethnic cleansing, but maybe it was also maybe to be more generous about it. It was maybe more like trying to achieve some kind of like perhaps spurious notion of like British unity, like everyone's got to speak English, everyone's got to dress the same, and
So yeah, well, and so you're going on tour now, yeah? The Furrow Collective. You've got some gigs. Are you playing in Europe at all? Not really. It's just
this tour coming up is all England.
I
think it's because I had this theory that because of the Reformation, going back to all that stuff, Christmas was like outlawed in Scotland for some centuries. I don't know how long. So maybe it's just not really such a big thing. It's not, and Hogmanay is the big thing up here, like New Year.
Yeah, right.
So maybe people save their energy for that. So that, I think for people, the idea of going out to like a Christmas gig, even though it's not what we're doing, isn't really a Christmas gig, but in England they seem to go for it more like, oh, it's Christmas.
Right.
Christmas gig. I don't know if there's any truth in that perception.
Yeah, they banned. So that was like John Knox banned it, the Reformation, because it was like too Catholic or something.
Yeah, I think so. But I think because I mean, I wasn't there obviously, but my understanding is that the Reformation wasn't quite as vehement and it wasn't quite as strong in England, as in Scotland.
And is the record coming out on vinyl?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Oh, good. That's how I listen to my music. I'm just going backwards. Did you ever play Victoria Bar, the Clifford Vaults, places like that? You remember these places? Maybe you're too young for that. Victoria Bar, is it still there?
I remember the Clutha. That was actually the first place I went in to ask for a gig, and they said, maybe you should try the 13th Note instead. So I went to 13th Note. Okay. I never played the Clutha, I know.
Right.
The Victoria, where was that?
I was just right next to the Clutha. It was just I used to play in this band, and instead of a bodhran, I just played the bongos, and we just started the song and then just played it as fast as we could, and then collapsed. It's called Itchy Fingers. It's like, but we had a residency, which was amazing. So we played every Sunday, and we got free drink. I was like, I wondered if you were involved in any kind of residencies, or do they still do that in Glasgow?
Not really, but I remember the kazoo club and stuff like that.
Right. It's more of the indie scene than the folk.
Or the indie scene at first when I moved to Glasgow, because I was there before, even though I'd been brought up with this, with my father being a folk musician and my parents booking folk musicians, I didn't really kind of fully embrace it until I was a bit older. And even now I feel a bit kind of outside the sort of the sort of orthodox folk world.
Yeah.
In Scotland, even though I've got kind of contacts within it, I still don't know that I'm fully kind of accepted by it, for whatever reason. Maybe because of the way that I kind of came, the way that I approached it, the way that I came to it, wasn't the standard way. And and now they have the conservatoire, and there's like the Scottish music course and stuff. And
is that in Nelson Mandela Square, isn't it?
Sorry.
They
Oh,
call it
no.
Nelson Mandela. Isn't that where the school is? It used to be there. The music school.
It's on Renfield. It's on Renfield Street now, up the hill a bit. Yeah, up near the bus station.
Yeah.
But I think it's good in a way that that people have the chance to study it. But for me, whenever something enters academia like that, it kind of becomes a bit orthodox, like an orthodoxy develops around it, and like orthopraxy, like a way to think about it and a way to do it. And if you don't do it that way, then it's wrong, in the eyes of the academy, and self-appointed experts.
Yeah, it's like art as well. I tried to get into art school like 4 or 5 times in Glasgow, but they told me I was unteachable and I didn't get in.
Well, that's a good thing to be unteachable.
Yeah. I was quite. That's why I'm saying I'm kind of proud of it,
Yeah. No,
but it was the guy, the drummer from Soup Dragons. I think he was one of the people who looked at the portfolios. I don't know what his name is. He's one of these conceptual art people. Can't remember his name, but yeah, what's it called? The Modern Institute. Yeah, this is like the art mafia. It's kind of next to Mono.
Yeah, I know.
Because I always thought the art mafia, and then you had the indie pop mafia, like the Pastels and all that. But you're just slightly younger to get to remember that kind of thing.
Well, yeah, one of my good friends is an artist who's represented by the Modern Institute.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Does he make the documentaries about R.D. Laing?
Yeah, that's him. Yeah.
I love R.D. Laing. Is one of the I really like his. I love watching these things like YouTube clips with R.D. Laing and. I think I know who you mean.
Yeah, Luke Fowler. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think I know his girl. When I was my formative years, I would go to Optimal, and I think his girlfriend. Okay, it doesn't matter. It's okay about gossip, but. Did we just jump directly? Because when I was listening to your song, it reminded me of a cross between, I hope you don't mind, Ivor Cutler and the Beach Boys. Somehow that's what came into my head.
That's a good mix. Which song?
Just the one that's coming out, We Know by the Moon.
Oh yeah.
The harmonies were just reminded me, I'm going to grow wheat, not song to grow wheat.
Oh yeah.
And it's kind of, the harmonies are beautiful, but it was kind of, that's what came to my mind. But you're a fan of Ivor Cutler, obviously, yeah?
Yeah.
Did you ever see him play? No.
I did, I think just once.
The concert hall? Or...
No, it was in Edinburgh somewhere.
Yeah, I was at that gig as well. I went with the guy from Bell and Sebastian. I think Stuart was there. And it was it part of it?
It was in a church, I think, the one I saw.
It was in a church. I seen Love play in there as well, the same place.
Right.
Forget the name of it, but yeah, that was a great gig.
Yeah. You should. It must have been the same one. Must have been the same gig. Yeah.
Yeah.
In like late 90s, maybe.
Yeah. I remember I've seen him 3 times. I've seen him in a sort of one of these German pop-up tents they used to put up in Glasgow once as well. I was a big influence on my mentality.
Yeah, no, he's great. I covered one of his songs years
ago.
Oh,
really?
I had a little boat.
Okay.
That song from Ludo, I think it's on Ludo.
You remember it? Can you do it now?
I had a little boat. I set it on the water. And I wrote a little message. I stuck it in the funnel and sent it to my true love who lives across the ocean. You know,
that's nice.
Beautiful, man.
Yeah.
Yes, I like some of his songs. Obviously, a lot of them are very funny, but then some of them have that kind of poignancy as well. That
yeah,
kind of, with the contrast with the humorous stuff, that they're all the more poignant.
It kind of transcendental or something. It reminds me of I do yoga and the teacher plays the harmonium and it's something about it is like really spiritual as well as being hilarious. And I love that idea of the low and the high, not lowbrow and highbrow, but just the way the contrast comes together is, yeah, sort of beyond words. What else to say? But I mean, hopefully this summer we can get you to play again. My friend had a question for you. He said he's seen you play at the Leaf Festival last year.
Oh yeah.
He said he's seen you there. He said it was gold, and he had a question. He's called Andrew Smith. He's a sports reporter, a very famous sports reporter. He writes for the Scotsman. So
he asked me what team I support. Is he going to ask me what team I support?
No, he wasn't. But what can you answer that?
Partick Thistle. I don't know.
Okay. No, that's just what people. That's what Rangers fans say when they. It's just.
That's the get out clause.
Yeah, it's like it's okay. No, I wanted to ask something about. It was like a. How do you feel playing festivals when people don't know your music? He's a professional journalist, so it's like a. You know, play a big festival like that, and the people don't know your music. Maybe they're not responding. How do you deal with it? How do you feel about it?
I enjoy the opportunity to play in front of new people, and also the challenge of making them engage with it. You know, if they're not engaging with it, then usually that's my fault. You know, I'm not doing it well enough. So it's like a challenge in that way. You've got to up your game. You know.
Yeah.
But it's the same when I like open for other people, like when I opened for Joanna Newsom on some gigs, a lot of gigs. Yeah, it was a great opportunity to get to play to people who wouldn't otherwise hear my music.